topic of coping, what is the difference between, some more sustainable coping methods and immediate coping methods? And, how can I focus on those more long lasting methods of coping?
Alex, that's such a great question because one of the things that we are all facing is needing to reevaluate and recreate and even establish new coping strategies. A lot of my coping strategies are suspended right now. I like to spend time with people, and I like to spend a lot of time with my friends. And so for me, I've really needed to kind of focus and say, okay, I need to establish new coping strategies, or I need to pivot the ones that I have. And so when I think about sustainable coping, I think about coping over time and coping with consistency. So sustainable coping basically means we are coping in such a way that we're building tolerance to whatever we're coping on or for. And with immediate coping, sometimes those tend to be unhealthier strategies just because there is a need or a desire to immediately transform whatever discomfort you're feeling emotionally. And unfortunately, what that does is it doesn't give us the ability to build a tolerance for something difficult, because the second we start to feel that pain, we immediately try to get rid of it. Now, I think a good way to cope is to have a combination of healthier, sustainable coping strategies, as well as some healthier, immediate coping strategies. And one of the ways to kind of tell if you're doing something more immediate or sustainable, if you're doing something more healthier or unhealthier, is to really kind of think about, why am I doing this? And what is my expectation after I do this? So if it's, okay, I'm going to have a glass of wine, kind of asking yourself, okay, um, is this sustainable every time I have this emotion? And is it maybe a good practice to have some things that I can do that give me immediate relief, like taking a deep breath, um, versus doing something that may interfere with my ability to build that tolerance? And sometimes immediate coping, like binge eating or misusing substances, can lead us to not building that tolerance for difficult emotion. And that's basically what we're doing right now. We have this huge macro stressor that has just kind of overtaken the planet in kind of like this UFO kind of way, where even though it may not be impacting us every single second of the day, it is impacting us every single second of the day. And our ability to bring that closer or further away is really kind of depending upon how we set up our coping strategies. And so for me, immediate healthy coping strategies are the one that actually help me feel better over time. And they also give me the ability to process and to feel with relief. So if I'm taking deep breaths, I'm still maybe feeling anxious or panicked, but I'm slowing myself down and giving my body and my mind the ability to adapt to that experience so that I can then address it without it feeling really acute,
Right.
which is the whole purpose of the coping strategies.
Yeah. So I kind of building off of that, what are some, more sustainable coping mechanisms that we can start employing in our lives right now?
Perfect question, Alex. And so for me, I'm really about things that help me stay in the moment. And so I kind of think about strategies being cognitive, emotional, and behavioral. So behavioral ones are going to be the ones that help us spread those good feel hormones, like exercising or getting some physical activity, deep breathing. One of the recommendations that I've had is for us to be doing more left brain activities. So things that involve crafting or doing puzzles, things that kind of keep us out of that kind of rigid prefrontal cortex that can sometimes be very daunting. And then emotionally, I think it's really about making sure that when we do have emotions come up, that we're processing them. Even if it's calling a friend and saying, you know what, I'm having a really bad day and I just need to talk for a second. or journaling or doing something that helps you process that emotion without just kind of skimming over it. Because again, we can feel an emotion and take the edge off of it without losing it completely. And then cognitively, I think it's so important to think about how do you think about stress? Because the way that you think about stress can exaggerate it. And so if we're able to kind of think about what are some process oriented strategies that I can apply that are going to help me stay in the moment and just really focus on coping in this moment so that I can get through it. And then if you do that consistently, you start to develop a coping structure that helps you get through difficult times.
I think that's great. And I'm sure my mom will be excited to hear about the puzzles because we have been doing a lot of those these past couple weeks, honestly, more than we've probably done in my whole life. So I'm glad to
Yes.
know that that's helping kind of take away the stress and not just something to pass the time.
Yes, it's really important that we're continually to stimulate all parts of our brain because one of the things that happens in quarantine and in any type of isolation is that your brain activity can actually decrease. And so we want to do things that keep our brains active and alert, and sometimes making sure that we're doing right and left brain activities is a good way to do it.
I think that's great. I think those are some really good strategies that hopefully people can, start to integrate in their daily life. So